Happy Lent. Lest you think that I just didn't get my steps in yesterday. The Great Litany, as we process and process and process and process and process and process a little bit more, um, is there for many reasons, friend. We do it always, this litany, on the first Sunday of Lent. Originally, it was actually the first liturgy created for the Anglican Church before the Book of Common Prayer even came around. The Great Liturgy existed, and it was supposed to be prayed and read every time we gathered, or at the very least on Monday morning, on Friday morning, and on Sunday when we gathered. How about that? A vote? Some of us love the Great Litany. Others wonder when it's going to end. I just want to point out really quickly for you, I think, the great things about the Great Litany is, one, it's a fantastic devotion during Lent. So if you're one of those people still trying to figure out what it is that you are doing for Lent, here's your softball pitch. Pray the litany every day. It covers everything. And in covering everything, it's a little bit like the Beatitudes, right? Think about the Beatitudes when the Beatitudes are, blessed are the, blessed are the, blessed are the, and then the woe to the, woe to the, woe to the, right? Tells us all of the things that are good about us and all the things we should be watching out for. It's all there in the litany. There's nothing that gets left out. So that's yours. You're welcome. That is your present for Lent, okay? I want to start today with a little bit of a story. When our eldest, who is turning 25 this year, that's hard to say. When our eldest was about 10 years old, she loved to travel, and can you hear that? Just me, or is that you? Is that bothering your ears at all? No? All right. I'm just hearing feedback. Okay. I can deal with it as long as you don't have to deal with it. So she was 10 years old. She was a big travel buff even then. And at the ripe old age of 10, we sent her on her first European tour. Sounds fancier than it probably was. She got to go with her grandfather for 3 weeks traveling around Europe. She was kind of his chaperone more than he was her chaperone. And I thought, this is fine. We lived in Switzerland. She had traveled every day pretty much since she was born. It would all work out just fine. And then as we got closer to sending her out on this journey, I got a little more anxious and a little more anxious and a little more anxious. And the way I dealt with my anxiety, and some of you might have done this yourself for your own children or the ones that you loved, I started cramming everything I could into her carry-on that would remind her of me and of how much I love her, right? So I would write out little notes and I would stick them, one in a shoe, another like in the crease of some pants. So as she went through and pulled things out, she would find, right, little love notes from mom. I made sure that our address and all of our contact information were printed out like 5 times so she could keep one in her pocket, keep one in her backpack, always have them. I put more snacks than was probably allowed even at that time on the flight, and all snacks that, kind of we both shared in common. And since I was trying to remind her of where she was coming from and who she would be coming back to, right? Giving her a sense of herself as a beloved child of mine and her dad's, and sending her out into the world on this big journey so that she would come back to us. Yeah? Anyone else ever done this? Maybe boarding school or college, or whenever you're sending people out that you love. It happened again with each of our kids every time I would send them out on their first journey, right? Now it's more text, or I think I got all of my kids just a make good decisions, love mom keychain. Whatever it is that I can stick in their hands or in their luggage, in their carry-on, as they're going out into the world, to remind them that they're mine and that I love them and that I want them to come back. Does that sound like a Lenten story to you? Some of you have heard Daniel accuse the medieval church of messing lots of things up on our behalf, and I think more and more that he might be right, because friends, the church over the years has sat us in this place of Lent, and said that it is a time simply for feeling bad about ourselves, right? A lot of this, and not a whole lot of remembering who we are. So I want to talk about that just a little bit this morning, because just like the litany, just like the Beatitudes, it's always a both and. You have to know who you are, where you come from, to know who home and where home is, before you get out into the world and mess it all up and have to do the good work of Lent, of remembering, figuring out where I got off the right track, how I got lost, so that I know how to get back. And if you don't know where home is, you can't really do that work, okay? It's not simply about feeling bad about who you are or about the world and the chaos that we are creating as humans in this world. We have to start with knowing where home is and who home is. When Jesus heads out into the wilderness, something happens right before the Spirit fills him and he goes out into the wilderness on this great trip with his carry-on luggage behind him. What happens right before he is sent out into the desert? Thank you, John. He was baptized. He was baptized. This all happens immediately as he comes up from the water. The Spirit rests upon him, and you hear a voice. And the voice says, "That's my kid. He's mine, beloved." And then we're told he's sent by the Spirit on this journey into the wilderness to figure out what that means. What does it mean to be the beloved child of God? What does it mean when we are baptized and come out of the water, being told that we are beloved, told that it's a crazy world out there, and said, now get out there and transform the world? What does that look like? So that's what Jesus is doing. Jesus is fasting. Jesus is praying. Jesus is doing all of the things that a good Jew should do when you're trying to work that stuff out. But he's sent with a carry-on luggage filled with one thing and one thing only, and that is a note that says, "You are mine, and you are loved, no matter what." How awesome is that? Now, Jesus is actually sent on a trip with the carry-on, knowing how to get back home because he knows where he's coming from. In the first reading, Moses is telling all of the people, remember who you are. Remember that you are a people that come from this itinerant wanderer. This Armenian guy is what he says. He's referencing Abraham, this wandering Armenian. When you need to know who you are, remember, one, you are of the line of Abraham. And Abraham had not a clue where he was going, had no idea what was at the other end, but he did it anyway, right? Do you remember the story very quickly of Abraham? Abraham is, right, an old man living out in the desert, right, doing his thing. And God comes and says, Abraham, follow me, and the stars are yours. I will make many nations of you at the ripe old age of 75. And he says, what do I have to lose? Okay, I'll go. He didn't have a triptych. He didn't have Waze telling him where he was going. And he didn't have the carry-on assuring him of who he was and where home was. By the time Jesus got on his trip, he knew where he was going to return because he knew who he was. Through his baptism, he knew who he was. I want to share with you a poem. In my house, we're big fans of Rilke. For those of you who are Rilke fans, in fact, I think my wedding ring has something inscribed from Rilke. But this is what I hear whenever I hear the story of Jesus being sent out into the desert. He writes, God speaks to each of us as he makes us carry on luggage, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You sent out beyond your recall, go to the limit of your longing. Embody me, flare up like a flame, and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand. Friend, Lent is a journey. Life is a journey. And the more we know what's in that carry-on luggage, the more we know that we are beloved and that we must always return to our loving God, the better we can be out in the wilderness as we journey. The easier it is for us to see when we're off course. The easier it is to identify that small little twisted voice, either coming from inside or outside, that tells us that maybe we should do things a different way. Satan is no match for those of us who know where home is. So what's in your luggage? Do you know? Do you trust? Have you left it somewhere on the journey? Did the airlines lose your luggage and you need to go find it? That's your Lenten journey, friends. Find the luggage. Reclaim what is yours by baptism so that you, too, can go out and be a flame and transform the world, knowing who you are, so that you can always return